It's the beginning of August, and you guys know what that means. July wrap-up time! So, I've actually got a lot to show you today, so we're gonna go through the wrap-up really fast. Most of these books were from the Booktubeathon. Big surprise! So, first up, we have The Professor and the Madman by Simon Winchester. This is a tale of murder, insanity, and the making of the Oxford English Dictionary. I mean, how can you pass that up? I just finished this like 3 nights ago, so it was still technically in July. So, you know, it totally counts. This was suggested to me by a friend of mine because I mentioned in one of my last wrap-up videos that I was falling very far behind on my nonfiction and biography reads, so she sent me several suggestions, and this was one of them. And, I mean, it's the making of the Oxford English Dictionary. I mean, you can't pass that up when you are a lover of words and a writer. And this book was pretty interesting. I only gave it 3 stars. Because there was some very mature content in here that, especially on audiobook, is really uncomfortable. So, I would definitely caution readers with this book, because of the madman's particular kind of insanity. There are a lot of sexual references, so I'm only going to recommend this for very mature people. And I am going to recommend that you get the book copy, because while the narrator Simon Winchester does a wonderful job of narrating this book, with book copies you are able to skim, and skimming is something that you may want to do with this story. I'm just throwing it out there. Next up, we have Alcatraz versus the Evil Librarians, and I gushed about this enough in my Booktubeathon wrap-up video. All you need to know is that the author is Brandon Sanderson, the author of Steelheart, if you guys are still, like, totally freaking out over that book, because it was awesome. And I did give this book 5 stars. It's fun, it's random, it's eccentric, there are talking dinosaurs and evil librarians. That is really all you need to know. The Killing Floor by Jack Reacher. I did it again. This is by Lee Child. It is a Jack Reacher novel, but the author is Lee Child. I think the reason I keep getting this confused is because there's a sticker over Lee Child's name, and Reacher is right up there in big letters on the top. I wasn't terribly impressed with this book. I only gave it 2 stars. It did get a little gory at times, and the villains were seriously disturbed, in my personal opinion, because, yeah, it was very gory in that way. But my biggest problem with this is that it was about 200 pages too long. The story just kept dragging on. I had kind of figured out aspects of the story that I'm like, okay, you guys, why haven't you figured this out yet? So it was about 200 pages too long. And I have heard from somebody who has actually read, like, the entire series, this was not one of their favorite books. So, I am going to give The Affair, another one of these titles, a try someday, because I like the concept. I kind of like the style of story when I'm feeling in, like, a really dark and gritty mood. But this story was just way too long. I was running out of patience for it, which is why I gave it 2 stars. Also, Forever Odd by Dean Koontz. This is the sequel to Odd Thomas, which I absolutely loved. I did not love the sequel as much. I only gave this book 3 stars, and it's because I didn't feel that it really lived up to my expectations. It kind of feels like this is another step in the journey of Odd Thomas. So I definitely feel like it's going somewhere, and it's leading into whatever's going to happen next. So I'm definitely going to keep reading the series, and it's definitely going to be an important step in that series. But I did not feel that it was as good as the first book. It was kind of, it took a total die-hard storyline, and he's running around this abandoned casino trying to take out the bad guys one at a time. And, I mean, it's an interesting concept, but I didn't like it as much as the first book. George Washington's Secret 6, The Spy Ring That Saved America. I'm sorry, The Spy Ring That Saved the American Revolution. This was a fascinating book about uncommon history and the Culper spy ring, which, as the subtitle suggests, basically is one of the reasons that America actually won the Revolutionary War. So definitely, for anyone who's interested in uncommon history and just history in general, this one got 5 stars. I was riveted the whole time. I also read The Battle for the Acropolis by Mikey Brooks, which is the 6th book in the Gates of Atlantis series. I did do a book review on that. I will link it below, and that is a really fun series. I would recommend it, especially for younger readers, just because it kind of has that tone to it. Older readers who are totally obsessed with Atlantis, like me, will also enjoy it. So that one got 4 out of 5 stars. Also, just a quick update on my 2014 reading goals. Of my goal of 25 adult fiction books, I am currently at 10 and a half if you count The Returned, which I'm in the middle of. For non-fiction books, I am at number 6 out of 10. So thank you so much, everyone who has given me non-fiction suggestions. I am looking into them. I am going to make sure that I pick books that I actually think sound interesting rather than educational, because while I want to expand my education, I can't very well do that if I am boring my brains out. For biography, I am still at 1. For finished series, I am still at 1. Although, I am going to finish Full Metal Alchemist soon, so soon that's going to be 2. And then for reread, there's no real goal for that. Just whenever I want to reread a book, I'm going to do it. So that is what I read in July. What I'm currently reading is The Returned by Jason Mott, and this book is utterly fascinating. I love the writing style in it too. I've been looking for a very long time for a book that has this kind of feel to it, so I'm very glad that I finally found it. For those of you who don't know, this is the basis for the television show Resurrection. It's playing on a channel right now. I can't remember what channel it is. It's either ABC or like CBS or something. But it's a show called Resurrection about people who are suddenly coming back from the dead, and no one knows why. Very, very interesting. And beautifully written, I think. So now, we're going to do an August TBR. For those of you who generally watch my videos, I don't usually do TBRs unless it's like for an event like the Booktubeathon, because I don't always want to read the books that I assign myself to read in a TBR. I just kind of like to go with the flow and read whatever it is that I want to read. But I have been collecting quite a cache of library books, and I have a bag overflowing with them that I actually need to read. So I don't know that I can get these all read in August, but I am definitely going to try. So here is my library book bag, and it's pretty full. So let's take a look and see what all is in here. First up, we have Coptown by Karen Slaughter. I read the I read the summary of this on my library website, and it sounded really interesting. It's about 2 female cops in a precinct in the 70s, when female cops were not something that was, really encouraged. And so I don't know that I'm going to make it through this book, because it could be too crude. It could have too much language or whatever in it for me. That's generally the reason that I don't read a lot of adult, like, mystery and cop procedural books. I totally said procedural wrong. Procedural. Oh my gosh. That's generally why I don't read procedural. It's generally why I don't read books about cops. The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. This is actually going to be a reread, because there is a group on Goodreads that I believe is called Booksplosion. I'm not entirely 100% sure, because I only just joined it. This is the book that they're going to read in the month of August. You guys have probably heard of this book group, because it's moderated by a bunch of big names here on BookTube, like Jesse the Reader, and I'm drawing a complete blank. I should probably have checked that before I started talking about it. But anyway, Booksplosion. This is the book they're going to be reading for the month of August. I have been dying to reread this book, mostly because I never actually reviewed it after the first time I read it, and the language in this book is so lovely, so beautiful. I could eat these words. I could subsist on a diet of just words from this book. Beautiful, and that doesn't really make any sense, but I'm going to say it anyway. The Hangman's Revolution, Book 2 of the Warp series by Eoin Colfer, and hey, yeah, I'm going to read almost anything by Eoin Colfer. I have to admit, I did draw the line at the adult books because I had read the reviews and I had a feeling that I wasn't going to like them, but anything young adults or children by Eoin Colfer, I'm going to read it, and so I'm going to read it this month. So there. Neverwhere by Neil Gaiman. This is one of the books that I had set aside for my booktubeathon that I didn't get to, that I am determined to read because I haven't read it yet. Lights and Chimes and Mysterious Times by Emma Trevane. A long time ago, somebody mentioned on Twitter that this was a really, really good book, and I said, oh hey, that sounds like something exactly up my alley, I should totally check it out. I finally found a copy of it, and the children's librarian in the library that I work at was actually nice enough to let me be the first reader of it. She was going to grab it and take it home and read it first, but she had a large stack of books, and I said, oh hey, I've been waiting for that one. So she's like, here, take it home, pre-read it, tell me how it is. So I got to read this because I've already had it for like 3 weeks. Explorer, The Mystery Boxes. This was also set aside for my TBR. It was going to be my book with pictures, the graphic novel, and I just didn't get around to it because I was reading a bunch of really thick books. So, I'm going to read this one. The last 3 volumes of Full Metal Alchemist. I am so close to the end. I can smell the ending. I can taste it, but I haven't quite read it yet. And oh my gosh, the series is so good. I forget sometimes how manga just can blow my mind. I don't know if it's the difference between Western and Eastern culture, or that they just have a whole lot of more crazy storylines and ideas than we do in America, or that I'm just exposed to, but whenever I read a manga, they usually blow my mind. It's awesome. And then, of course, down at the bottom of the bag, we still have Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, which I haven't gotten around to. Hopefully I will get around to it in August. But I have a feeling that it's going to kind of stay at the bottom of that bag until I just make a determination and say, oh yeah, I'm going to read that today. But to be honest with you, I'm seriously looking forward to the stack over here. So I'm going to read this eventually. Just not this moment. Alright, other than that, I just have my one book haul. I found this. It is an awesome old hardcover copy of Kon-Tiki by Thor Heyerdahl. And I have read most of this book. I have not completed the book, but I have read most of this book, and it is really, really interesting. Thor Heyerdahl was a scientist of some kind, like an anthropologist. He was trying to prove a theory that a group of people could cross the Pacific Ocean on rafts. So what he did is he got a couple of people together, they built a raft, and they sailed across the Pacific Ocean, and this is the account of that. And it's a very interesting, very entertaining book. From what I remember, it has very much the feel of a Jules Verne novel, but this is non-fiction, so it is a really fun and interesting read. Okay, so that's it for my July wrap-up and August TBR. So I hope you guys are all having a great time with these last days of summer. May your pages ever turn.